Yes, good morning, all of you. We can resume the lesson. The Enemy by Pearl Esbach. Page number 28, where we have to resume the lesson. What is he? Hannah whispered. What is he? Hannah whispered. So you can also see that the kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea, Hannah said. But neither of them neither of them moved. They were staring with a curious repulsion upon the inert figure. I already told you, inert. Inert means you are motionless, and of course, innocent. Also, you can write. So, innocent, and of course, motionless figure. So immediately she asked. Hannah asked, "What is he? What is he? What is the meaning? What is his profession?" She asked, "What is he?" Hannah whispered, and she just in a secret voice. She asked. She just verified. There is something about him that looks American, Shadow said. And of course, by his understanding and of course his observation, he was answering, there is something about him while looking at his, dress code. We will also identify Indian Army, our soldier, whatever it is, in even police uniform, we will also identify. So he has something. So there is something about him that looks American, Shadow said. He took up the battered cap, underline the word. That means maybe injured or something, collapsed or damaged. So here battered cap, that means damaged cap. Yes, they're almost gone. Was a faint lettering, and he identified that he saw that he came to see that, and of course faint lettering. It's like fade, totally. Faint lettering. So something unable to read very properly, but anyhow he just read and tried, and of course he found that a sailor. He said from an American warship. They identified that a sailor from a sailor, he said, from an American warship. That's why you can also write POW, prisoner of war, escaped prisoner of war. He spelled it out, US Navy. He spelled it out, US Navy. The man was a prisoner of war. This is what they identified. Immediately, see, somewhat, she was surprised by getting the answer from Sarajevo. He has escaped, Hannah cried softly. Something escaped prisoner? Oh, something, that is a problem. Likewise, he was also just he was showing her even depression or something, surprise. He has escaped, Hannah cried softly, and that's why he is wounded. That's why he is wounded. She concluded, and in the back, Shadow also agreed. Yes, you are correct, my dear. You are correct. And they hesitated, looking at each other. Then Hannah said with resolution, underline the word resolution. I think you're all writing. Resolution means determination. She had taken a decision, a determination. That means she took an idea. That's why she decided, and they hesitated. Each of them, they hesitated because he was an enemy, and of course a white man who escaped from, who was a navy, U.S. Navy. That's why. So here they started to hesitate, looking at each other, and what they have to do. Nobody knows. So then Anna said with the resolution, determination, "Come, are we able to put them back into the sea?" She asked something. Come, are we able to put them back into the sea? That's already they discussed. We can easily do only one thing. We can just put them into the sea. So immediately she asked, are we able to put them back into the sea? Immediately Shadow also told that something, if I am able, are you? Shadow asked. So I'm okay, no problem. I can do that. I can render. But can you come and give your hands? Like he asked, if I am able, are you? Shadow asked. But immediately she rejected that. No, Hannah said. But if you can do it alone, so I will not take a part. I will not show my contribution. If you wish, if you can, you can just do that whatever we decided. So you can put them into the sea. Like she was also saying that. So no, Hannah said, but if you can do it alone, you can go forward. Shadow was hesitated again, and of course he was alone, so he hesitated himself, and he was sharing something with Hannah. The strange thing he considered, the strange, so the different thing, the different thing is, he was mentioning that, right, which stopped him, made him to think, which that the strange thing, he said, that if the man were whole, I could turn him over to the police without difficulty. I can nothing for him. He is my enemy, right? All Americans are my enemy, and he is only one, or only a common fellow. You see how foolish his face is. But since he is wounded, you understand the strange thing. So when they decided to put him into the sea once again, but here Shadow hesitated again, and he was saying that the strange thing, the different thing. That means my justification. My judgment is what I'm saying is, you can have a close bracket, and you can also make an important symbol. This is for your extract, and of course your textual questions, even for even 5 mark questions also. See that if the man were whole, you know what is the meaning? It is an imaginary or something we are saying that. So if the man were whole, that means, if he is normal, no issues, you can underline that. That if a man were whole, I would turn him over to the police without difficulty. You understand that? If he is normal, easily I can go and hand him over to the police as usual. But he was just giving a twist. I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. All Americans are my enemy, and he is only a common fellow. While looking at that means common fellow, underline the word. He is an injured man. He's an injured man. That's why he was just sharing that. If the man was whole, I could turn him over to the police without difficulty. I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. All Americans are my enemy. And he is only a common fellow, an injured man, a patient. You see how foolish, underline the word, means maybe innocent. You can also write, yes, while looking at that, he was an innate and of course motionless, and of course innocent, foolish, very very tender, very tender and soft. That's why you see how foolish his face is. But since he is wounded, I cannot go. I cannot. That's why I'm hesitating. I cannot go and put him into the sea. This is what. Then, okay, you also cannot throw him back to the sea. Hannah said, okay, no issues, no problem. Anyhow, that is your condition. You also cannot throw him back to the sea. Hannah said, then there is only one thing to do. If you, maybe it is like, her irritation. Maybe, some agitated things like he also reacted. If you cannot, I will not touch him because, for any shape. I cannot touch him because he is a white man, right? She was very clear in her decision. And when she was requesting Sadovar to take that, do that work, he was also hesitating. So that she was telling that you also cannot throw him back to the sea, means then there is only one thing to do. There also you can make an important symbol. Then, even textual or extract, then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house. Ultimate objective. That means they came to a conclusion. So we cannot do. So we have only two options. Like either we can put him into the sea, or we can go to carry him into our house. So first one they rejected. Nobody was ready to. Nobody was willing to do that. So the second option they have taken that. That means, then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the sea. Immediately, that means, Sadova was expecting for that. That's from even Hannah's mouth. That's why he waited. So here, after her, decision, see, but the servants Sadova inquired. Yes, you are correct, Hannah. You are correct. But what about the servants? Servants will react. You understand? Servants will react. This is what he also inquired, right? On page number 29, you can see. Yes, she managed. We must simply tell them that we intend, underline the word intent. We want to give them to the police, as indeed, certainly, we must shadow also. And we must think of the children and your position. It would endanger, underline the word, in danger means put at risk. Beauty, put at risk or put in danger. Or you can go for pose a threat to. Pose a threat to. So here it would endanger all of us if we did not give this man over as a prisoner of war. So with the knowledge of the servants, when we are carrying him to our house, we have to do as soon as possible. We need to hand them over to the police as a prisoner of war. Otherwise, our future will be a question mark. You understand? That's why we must simply tell them underline the word servants that we intend to. We want to give them to the police as indeed we must. Tadava. And we must think of the children and your position also, please. Children's life and of course their future and your position. You are something recognized in the country, and you're all like government official, like you're also. We have to think. Otherwise, they will call you as betrayer. You know what is the meaning betrayer? A traitor. Traitor means those who betrayed against of the nation. So it would endanger all of us. That means all of us here underline the word and Sarava's family if we did not give this man over as a prisoner of war. Suddenly, Sadava also agreed. So certainly, Sadava agreed. I would not think of doing anything else. Yes, you are correct, Miss Hannah. I will also cooperate. I will also, I will just give him first aid. Then I will also hand him over as a police. Hand him over to the police as a prisoner of war. This is what he also agreed. Thus agreed, together they lifted the man. And of course, they had taken a decision. Then meanwhile, they started to do that. Thus agreed, together they lifted the man into the house. He was very light and like a fowl, and like a bird, which was very, lean and of course, lanky. So, like a fowl that had been half starved for a long time. You understand that half starved from poverty stricken. Underline that half starved without taking adequate food for a long time until it is only feathers and skeletons. Something it's like paper swimming ball. We are also taking that paper swimming, but due to some due to poverty, or we are saying the scarcity of food or anything, we can take that. He was lean. He was lean, and of course he was a youngster, young man. That's why thus agreed together they lifted the man. He was very light, like a fowl that had been half starved for a long time, until it is only feathers and skeletons. So his arms hanging, they carried him up the steps and into the sides of the door of the house. This door opened into a passage, and down the passage they carried the man towards an empty bedroom. Whose bedroom that was? It had been the bedroom of Sadava's father. And since his death, it had not been used for any purpose. That was it's like looking like a new room. Nobody used that. That room was not used by anybody. That's why after his death. That means since his death, since his underline the word and right, Sarava's father's death, it had not been used by anybody in the house. So they laid the man on the deeply matted floor. Everything in the room here had been Japanese to please the old man. You understand that he was a sincere patriot. That's why even in his house also, even in his room also, everything related to. You can also understand when you visit a lawyer's office, when you visit a painter's or an artist's office, you will come to know that based on their profession, they will also arrange everything. Likewise here, you can also see that. So this door opened into a passage, and down the passage they carried the man towards an empty bedroom. It had been the bedroom of Sadava's father, and since his death, it had not been used. They laid the man on the deeply matted floor. Everything here had been Japanese to please the old man, who would never in his own home sit on a chair or sleep in a foreign bed. You understand? He was very sensitive. That's why he was everything was arranged to please that particular man who died already. So he would never in his own home sit on a chair or sleep in a foreign bed. That means he was totally related to his country. That's all. He opposed everything. He was against of anything, even the products from abroad, foreign. And Hannah went to the wall cupboards, and of course slid back. Underline the word slid back means move smoothly moved. So move smoothly back a door and took out a soft quilt. So here Hannah went to the wall cupboards and slid back a door opened and took out of a soft quilt. Underline the word soft quilt cover, maybe a towel like soft quilt. She hesitated. While seeing that, she hesitated. The quilt was covered. The quilt was covered with flowered silk, and the lining was pure white silk. We will not waste it, which is precious, which is precious in our house. We will not waste. While looking at the man, she hesitated a lot, and of course he murmured in distress. He's so dirty. I don't want to waste my even a towel. I don't want to waste my quilt. That is something precious in our house. So he is so dirty, she murmured in distress. Underline the word. She depressed. Something distress. And yes, he had better be washed. As a doctor, he was also answering. You are correct, Hannah. Sadova agreed. Yes, of course. Yes, he had better be washed. He had better be washed. Right? Sadova agreed. If you fetch hot water, I will wash him. If you will, you can also strike out will. If you fetch hot water, I will wash him. He was just sharing with Anna. Then she just had given an entry like I cannot bear for you to touch him. You understand? She very clearly she's stating that she was stating that she said, I cannot bear. What is the meaning bearing? So I cannot bear for you to touch him in any reason. For the sake of you also, I will not touch because he is a white man. I don't have that, intention. Will not do that. Please consider. And she was also just, getting something, stating that. So here, I cannot bear for you to touch him, she said. We shall have to tell the servants he is here. I will tell Yumi now. She can leave the children for a few minutes and she can wash him. So when it's like she was passing the parcel to someone. When Chadova requested her to bring, it's like hot water. She was just passing the parcel to Yumi. Yumi was a maid servant who was a babysitter. In Chadova's house. So I cannot bear for you to touch him, she said. We shall have to tell the servants he is here. Of course, we need to share everything with our Servants, they are also like family members, so that, and of course they are very curious. And I will tell you, me, she was a babysitter and maid. You write, underline, she was a babysitter, who was taking care of babies. So who babysitter now, she can leave the children the next room. She can leave the children for a few minutes and she can wash them. Shall I consider a moment? Yes, of course, you are correct only, Hannah. Always, he was saying like that. Let it be so. He agreed. Okay, whatever you think, you can also execute. No issues for me. Whether you are washing or whether or you me washing, that is not a matter for me. But anyhow, he had better be washed because I need to do some first time. You understand? And of course, yes. So here, Sarva, consider a moment. Let it be so. He agreed. You tell Yumi, and I will tell the others. So you can go and tell, and you can bring Yumi with hot water. Then I will tell other servants in the house. Then I have to give the statement. But the utter pallor of the man's unconscious face moved him first to stop and of course feel his pulse. While looking at the man before leaving the patient, leaving the injured man, but the utter pallor, underline the word utter pallor, means a pale condition, a very dangerous condition. While looking at the man's unconsciousness face, moved him, underline that, moved him, Sadavo, here. First to stoop, that means he bent, he came closer and feel his pulse. He was checking his pulse. You understand that? That means by looking at, he was too big, so that before leaving and explaining to the servant, he just did checked only one thing, his pulse. And it was faint, and of course, what is the meaning faint? Underline the word, that was weak. The pulse was weak or faint, but it was there. That means something. He might get his something. He may get this, survival like. And he put his hand against the man's cold breast. Underline that. The heart too was yet alive. Everything was checking, even the heartbeat and of course his pulse. As a doctor, as a trained one, and of course a surgeon, and of course a scientist, they did everything. And he will die unless he is operated on. Sarova said. So after checking his pulse and of course his you know even heartbeat, he delivered that, shared with his wife. He will die. You can also underline and make an important symbol, right? Extract or even textual. He will die unless he is operated on. Sarava said. Considering, that means he was measuring that, diagnosing. And the question is whether he will not die anyway. Something, he was just stating that. And of course, he will die unless he is operated on, but he will not die. He was telling that because he was a young man, and of course, he had that willpower, and of course, he had his willpower. That's why he was just so too confident, and he was sharing that. Too confident, and he was sharing that. Yes, sir. So he will die unless he is operated on. Sarova said, considering. Yes, the question is whether he will die anyway, right? And then Hannah cried out in fear. Hannah cried out in fear. Don't try to save him. And of course, what if he should live? So what is our purpose? What should I What should I worry? What should we worry for him? And she was asking that. Hannah cried out in fear when he decided to operate. And when he was sharing that, he will die unless he is operated on. So that means that was his decision. Chadava's decision. He was going to do an operation. That's why she understood. So she cried out in danger. That's why she cried out in danger. Something yes. Now you can see. So Hannah cried out in fear. Don't try to save him. Don't try to save him. What if he should live? Immediately he also told that something. What if he should die? Shadow replied. He replied, what if he should die? And then he stood gazing, and of course, that it's like very interesting dialogue, and of course, conversation. Maybe it's like debate. They were having that, and he stood down on the motionless man. This man must have, and of course extraordinary vitality. You can also, so down on the motionless man, this man must have extraordinary vitality or he would have been dead by now. By looking at the face, by looking at the man, and he was too young, that's why he was just sharing that. But then he was very young, perhaps not at 25. You understand that he was a young man, youngster. That's why he had his vitality and willpower, so that only he was getting a survival. He was alive at that moment. You understand that? And he was mentioning This man must have extraordinary vitality. Underline the word vitality here. The strength and of course energy, or he would have been dead. You can underline the sentence, or he would have been dead by now. And but then he was very young. So he was a young man. Of course, he's a young man. We need to save him. So here, perhaps not at 25. Just he didn't cross 25. You mean die from operation? He was Hannah asked. You mean die from operation? Yes, that was it. Anything can be happened at any time, right? And of course, he also managed. Then Hannah considered this doubtfully, and when she did not answer, Shadow turned away. And of course, when she did not answer, Shadow turned away. At any rate, something must be done with him. He was also very strong in his decision. Okay, whatever you are taking or whatever I'm considering, whatever the servants are considering, that is secondary. The primary thing is, anyhow, at any rate, something, you can have a close bracket. At any rate, something must be done with them. He said something, for an example, it can be, first aid, or it can be an operation, anything. And first, he must be washed before that. You first do that. This is what I already told you. You have to go. Either you, or you can go and just request you me. She has to wash him. So here, at first, he must be washed. He went quickly out of the room, and Hannah came behind him. She did not wish to be left alone with the white man, and of course, he was the first she had seen since she left America, and now he seemed to have nothing to do with those whom she had known there. Here he was her enemy, a menace. Underline the word a menace, right? Menace means maybe a threat, maybe a problem, maybe a danger, maybe a threat or danger, maybe a threat or danger in the house, right? So that's why. So here he was an enemy, a menace, a threat, or a peril, or a problem, or a danger, living or dead, nobody knows. Even he was having that confusion, like he was a motionless man. That's why he was just describing. So you can once again you can get that. Hannah considered this doubtfully, and when she did not answer, Sadova turned away. That means and he was sharing that, he was telling that at any rate something must be done with them. Immediately how to do that, right? At first he must be washed, then he went quickly. That means as a doctor, he just ordered to the assistant. So then he went quickly out of the room, and Hannah behind him. She came behind him. That means she didn't want to stay alone in the white man's room. She did not wish to be left alone. You can underline that. Wish to be left alone with the white man, and he was the first she had seen since left America. You understand that? After leaving America, too many years she spent in Japan. After that, this is he was the first man. So here he was the first man she had seen since he left America, and now he seemed to have nothing to do with those. Underline that. Those means white man's. White man, you're right, are white people, are you right, Americans, whom she had known there when she was having her education. And here he was her enemy, a manish, living or dead. Then she turned to the nursery and called. Of course, he came out, and of course, he turned to the nursery and in the word, a room in the house where the children play. So here, nursery room. That means children's playing room. So here she turned to the nursery and called Yumi. Yumi. Who was Yumi? Can you say that? Who was Yumi? Babysitter. Yumi was a babysitter in the house, or maid, we can take that. So she turned to nursery and called Yumi. Are you all hearing me, sir? Sir, am I audible, sir? You can
So
unmute. Yes, sir, you can
yeah,
unmute and answer, sir. Yes, sir. Right. Thank you. And she turned to the nursery and called Yumi, but the children heard her voice, and she had to go in for a moment. That means, so when she called from the doorsteps, you understand that? So when she called Yumi, but the children heard her voice. Whose voice? Your Hannah's voice. You understand that? And she had to go in for a moment and smile at them, and of course play with the baby boy. Underline the word baby boy, the second child, baby boy. What is the meaning, baby boy? Now nearly 3 months old. You understand, already one child, and of course this is the second baby, and that was a baby boy, and that's why. So when she called Yumi, but the children heard her voice, and she had to go in for a moment. Something it's for something formality. She just went inside, and of course shared something with the children, her children. You understand? And Yumi was a babysitter. So here for a moment and smile at them and play with the baby boy, and now nearly 3 months old. Okay then. Over the baby's soft black hair, she motioned with her mouth. Something she kissed on his forehead like, and over the baby boy's soft black hair, she motioned with her mouth. You may come with me. Then after that, she just ordered. You may come with me. I will put the baby to bed, and of course, I will put the baby to bed. You may reply, wait a minute, mistress. Yes, I will come. I will follow whatever you were expecting. I will put the baby to bed. Yumi replied, he is ready. And of course, he went with Yumi into the bedroom next to the nursery and stood with the boy in her arms while Yumi spread the sleeping quilts on the floor and lay the baby between them. Something as he also assisted even Yumi. You understand that? That means they were just preparing something. So here she just arranged everything, and until that Hannah carried the baby boy, and she went with Yumi into the bedroom next to the nursery and stood with the boy in her arms while Yumi spread a sleeping quilt on the floor and laid the baby boy between them. Then Hannah led the way quickly, and of course, he came out of the room quickly and softly to the kitchen. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told them. Meanwhile, Sado also discussed everything with the two servants. You understand? So they were frightened. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told them. The old gardener, who was also a house servant, pulled the few hairs on his upper lip. Something he was agitating. You understand that when he received the thing, he started to react. Something, an enemy, a white man in our house. We are taking care of him. We are saving a soul. So he started to react. That means his agitation, as that means he was not interested in that. That's why he started to react, and of course. So here when he was sharing the thing. So here then Hannah led the way quickly and softly to the kitchen. The two servants are taking hot water. That's why she just went to the kitchen. Then Hannah led the way quickly and softly to the kitchen. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told them. Right, master said a the old gardener, who was also a house servant, pulled the few hairs on his upper lip, and the master ought not heal the wound of this white man. And he was saying that the master ought not, underline the word ought not, must not, you right? The master must not heal, cure the wound of this white man, he said bluntly to Hannah. When he just, after Sarava's explanations, he just came to Hannah, and of course, something, through her, he just, injected the things. So here the master must not heal the wound of this particular white man, he said bluntly to Hannah. The white man ought to die, and of course he had some superstitious things. You know what is the meaning? Superstitious, superstition. We are saying that, and of course he was telling that you can also underline, have a closed bracket, make an import symbol. The master or not or the master the white man ought to die, and of course he was saying that the white man ought to die. That means must die. First he was shot. For that he had some reasons. First he was shot by the gun, right? And he was telling that the master ought not to heal the wound of this particular white man. He said bluntly to Hannah, the white man ought to die. First he was shot. Then the sea caught him and wounded him with her rocks. Underline the word with her. Her means sea, right? Had rocks, something, superstitions. And if the master heals what the gun did, and of course what the sea did, they will take revenge on us. Whether it is possible? No, no, it is not possible. He was something, old man. That's why he was an elder. That's why he worked with Sado's father. Then when he was when Sado was a little boy also, and then he had a good experience. That's why he was an experienced personality. But he was an old man. That's why he was believing all those things, and he was just justifying that. See here, justifying that. See, the master, the white man ought to die. He must die because first he was shot by a gun, then the sea caught him and wounded him with the rocks. If the master heals, Sadova heals what the gun did, and of course what the sea did, then they will take revenge on us. You understand that? You can have a close bracket. Then they will. What is the meaning they here? They will take revenge on us. What is the meaning they? You can unmute and answer me. They means
Sir, gun and see.
yes, of course, right? And gun and sea. If the master heals what the gun did, and of course what the sea did, they will take revenge on us. So immediately Hannah started to react. I will tell him what you say. No issues, no issues, no. Please, please be calm. I will tell you. I will tell him. I will tell my husband what you say. Hannah replied. courteously, because he was an experienced man. Courteously, politely. Then, up to that, we can stop. Then we will continue the next class.